Rebecca, you've worked at the Two Robbies. You've also started working with the Two Nobbies. Is that what we're going to be called? Dish the dirt on us all. I mean, what's it like working with us? What's it like working with them? What are the differences?
Gary in the studio, even though I work with you on the podcast every week, I still haven't yet picked up, and I certainly haven't with you, Jamie, yet either, your little kind of signals of when you're going to stop talking or whether you finish your point. With Mustoe, we get the nostril flare. I know the nostril flare when he wants to get in and talk. Earle's got a finger when he wants to get in.
We're like the Peter Beagrie and Doku of Punditry. You're just not going to... You haven't got a clue what we're going to do next. We haven't got a clue.
Coming up on this episode of It's Called Soccer, my two pals from the NBC studios, Robbie Mustoe and Robbie Earle, join us for a chat.
Robbie Mustoe's about to make a point there.
No, it's not. Go ahead, Bex.
His nostrils didn't flare, Jamie. You got to look for the nostrils. The chaps from the Give and Go podcast talk us through the conference playoff finals in Major League Soccer.
Let's say it at the same time.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
3, 2, 1.
LA Galaxy.
Okay.
And we dive into the biggest stories coming out of the Premier League. Is Salah staying? Is De Bruyne going? And can anyone stop Liverpool?
It feels more than 3 points, and if Liverpool do, go on and lift the trophy, I think a lot of people look back at this game.
That's all coming up on this episode of It's Called Soccer, and don't forget, make sure you subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Hello everybody and welcome to this episode of It's Called Soccer, which is brought to you by AllState. And AllState is where we're going to start. Jamie, we're going to go straight in with your moment of the week, which is, God, it's a difficult one, this. Go.
Yes, it wasn't difficult at all. That, Rebecca. I mean, the standout moment, the AllState moment of the week was, I think Liverpool beating Manchester City. It's a game that I think the whole world has stopped over the last 5 or 6 years to watch Liverpool play Manchester City. It was the first time we'd seen Liverpool's new manager, Arne Slot, up against Pep Guardiola, but it delivered again. I'm not just saying that because Liverpool won, but, just playing at Anfield, the intensity, using the crowd, the way Liverpool went about it was very reminiscent of a Jurgen Klopp performance and sort of some of the great games that we've seen over the years against Manchester City. And it felt like one of those games where if Liverpool do win the league, there's always 5 or 6 games you look back on, I think, through a season that you might think are pivotal or really important, might be a last-minute winner at times. But I think playing against your title rivals and beating them so convincingly, it feels more than 3 points. And as I said, if Liverpool do, go on and lift the trophy, I think a lot of people look back at this game.
We'll talk Man City, of course, in just a minute. But that first 30 minutes, Jamie, that first 30 minutes from Liverpool was... I don't even know how would you describe that first 30 minutes?
I mean, it felt to me, that first 30 minutes, like it doesn't really matter who the manager is or the players are for Liverpool at moments like that. It feels to me where, I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but I've said this with the new manager coming in Slot, and there's all this talk about him playing different football or slightly more control, but sometimes at Anfield you can't control it. No matter what you want to say as the manager, what you've told the players, the plan. Sometimes Anfield just picks the game up and it just takes it with it, and you can't. I played in defensive teams, but still be times against sort of Man United or European opposition, the crowd would just take you on a sort of like a journey with them, and they demand energy and pressing and everyone running forward. And I think sometimes you've just got to stand back and just let it happen. Gary knows that better than me as well. Sometimes as an opposition player going there, you just go to Anfield and it's that quick, it's that loud. Before you know it, you think, what? Something's happened. You can't quite put your finger on why.
Yeah. Rebecca, I think you look at Pep Guardiola's record and Manchester City's record at Anfield over the last 21 years. I think they've only won once. And Pep's, to be fair, struggled there. He's only won in the year where basically there were no fans in there in COVID. And I've said this many times in the last 12 years since I left United, and basically said that in the first 30 minutes at Anfield, we were not allowed to pass the ball sideways or backwards. We had to get the ball out of our feet. We had to deliver it forward. We had to move up behind it. We had to throw it forward. Because if you threw it back or you threw it sideways, they were all over you. And that, to be fair, what Jamie's just said is absolutely right. That might have been a Liverpool team that weren't as good as this current one or weren't as good as the Jurgen Klopp one over the last 5 years. You never got a second to breathe. They were all over you, and you literally never had any time on the ball at Anfield. So when you see City there on Sunday, I made a commentary line in part of the first half, and I said, usually at this point in the game, I would say about any team that's playing in this position, what the hell are they doing playing out in their own box? But it's Pep Guardiola and it's Manchester City. But I have to say, well, you've only won there once in the last 21 years. You have to change something. And I thought, when I reflect upon that game now and I look back on Sunday, I think for Pep Guardiola to go with a similar structure to what he'd done against Tottenham the week before, to actually think that they're going to be able to play out from the back, with that, by the way, with Liverpool attacking the Kop, because they flipped them round, actually they were asking for trouble. They should have been 3-0 down, City, in that first 10, 15, 20 minutes. And to be fair, looking back now, they probably deserved it. It might have helped City actually to go 3-0 down in the sense of just approaching a game at Anfield is completely different. Pep Guardiola is one of the greatest managers that will ever live, maybe the greatest manager that's ever lived in terms of his global influence. But you have to say, when he comes to Anfield, it's an absolute blind spot to think you can pass out from the back in the first 20 minutes. He's never been able to do it. We were never able to do it. Other teams that have played there have never been able to do it. So why would you even think to do it? It's madness.
Jamie, I'm going to ask you about Salah in a minute because I want to follow up on that after what you said just over a week ago. But let's just stick on Manchester City there. It can't just be injuries. It can't just be just the approach that Gary talked about there. It looks, the body language as well, it is unrecognisable. It looks from the outside in, and of course I know we don't know this. You can't say you know anything about this. But it looks like something has happened.
You know what it is, Rebecca, in football clubs, you think everything's okay. And then there's maybe little small things happen, and then them all together feel like a big one. Now, the big one's obviously Rodri, but we've seen Pep Guardiola before actually win the title without a striker. You know, he didn't have a centre forward one season. I can't remember if Aguero was injured or he'd moved on or they hadn't filled that position. He always finds a way. But I do think there's almost... Rodri's the big one, but there's 2 or 3 things around that. The signings that they've made in that particular position have now blew up in the face because Rodri's injured. Now, he'd probably got away with those plays, you know, Núñez not being good enough, Calvin Phillips coming in not being good enough, Kovacic, a little bit old, brings Gundogan back. So these decisions now look like poor decisions. But the big one as well, we were speaking about this before the game, me and Gary, Kevin De Bruyne, for me, has been the best player in the Premier League for the last 4 or 5 seasons. I would put him in an all-time Premier League 11 in terms of midfield play. He's one of the best players I've ever seen. And for him not to be getting picked right now at Manchester City, the only way I can describe that is Steven Gerrard being sub 3 or 4 games on the bounce after he come back from injury for Liverpool. It'd just be like, it'd be one at the absolute most. And even the first game he was sub, you know, he'd be coming on after an hour. You know, and no matter what the game state was, it's just, I can't fathom how he's not started that game. What could Rico Lewis at right midfield have done more than Kevin De Bruyne? I'm not having a go at that young kid. I'm just almost saying, like, this lad was out of position anyway at right midfield trying to protect Kyle Walker. You could have just put De Bruyne there. And my big fear going into the game was De Bruyne. I thought if De Bruyne's not starting here, we'll win this game, no problem. I had a fear of De Bruyne because even when he came on against Tottenham the week before when, you know, they battered City, he still played 2 passes towards the end of the game that put Haaland in on goal. And I'm like, even if he can't run, just for the quality. So there's no way something has not gone on between Pep Guardiola and Kevin De Bruyne. There's not a chance in the world. There's something gone on and it's yet to come out. And
that's interesting. Maybe that's the problem. I mean, I think Pep has spoken today at the time of recording. He's spoken to the press and he said he doesn't think he's fit yet. He still doesn't think he's ready. I think he said he's getting there. He's getting ready. But did you guys see De Bruyne warming up holding his match shirt? That was like a message. Like I've never seen a sub do that. Gary, is that for you what could be the big problem?
He was warming up in that corner in front of the City fans, and I think Kevin De Bruyne wouldn't ordinarily warm up that length of time. I mean, he was warming up with a few others. It became apparent after 10-15 minutes that the choice of Rico Lewis and Núñez in the wide areas, they were neither providing any attacking threat nor any defensive cover. So you've basically got 2 players there who are obviously good young players, they've got talent, but if they're not, I said, I think just after half time, if they were actually keeping City really solid and stopping the chances raining in on the goal, you just said, fair enough, keep them on. But they weren't. Liverpool could have scored at any time, it felt like, and they weren't providing any attacking threat at all. For Kevin De Bruyne, I completely agree. There's something happened. There's definitely De Bruyne's got it in him. We know that from a couple of his press conferences with Belgium over the last few years, that he can be quite provocative. He obviously has got a little bit about him, and you would have if you're one of the greatest players in the Premier League. So maybe something has happened, but I think they would keep it in-house because I think they know decorum would be important to De Bruyne. And I think Pep Guardiola, they've achieved so much together that actually there's no way in which I don't think they're going to call each other out publicly, because that would end up being like a real mess. I'm going to say something now which may not happen, and I hope it doesn't happen. Would it be a shock in January if all of a sudden he was just out the door for no reason? You know, you look at what happened with Cancelo, that came out completely out of the blue. Now, I don't think it will happen, but it wouldn't be ridiculous to think that if there has been a fracture, they're keeping it quiet till January, and it's just going to be a case of, right, he's gone and we're going to bring someone in as an example. But I hope that doesn't happen, because I want to see Kevin De Bruyne play football in the Premier League. He's amazing.
All right, Jamie, before we move on from Liverpool against City, you made your feelings clear about Mo Salah on 2 Monday Night Footballs ago about his contract situation. My question to you, though, is something's going to have to happen at some point, because he keeps getting... He now loves an interview. He's now doing every post-match interview I'm seeing. He's obviously getting asked because the reporters doing their job. They have to ask, because you can't now do an interview with Salah without asking him about his contract. So at some point, something's going to have to happen, or this is going to get a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think if you go back a couple of years ago as well, it was pretty something similar, really. Listen, we've known for a long time that Mo Salah sees himself as one of the global superstars of football, and rightly so. And I think that the players who were above him, like Messi and Ronaldo, you couldn't get to them, you couldn't speak to them, you couldn't get an interview with them. You probably have to go through a chain of command, and you probably have to pay good money as well to sit down with them. So it's pretty obvious when Mo's coming out, he's got something to say, because it's not easy to get the interview with him. My issue with it is just the speaking publicly. Now, I can tell you, I will change tack in terms of, if Mo Salah's not at Liverpool next season, I'll be very, very frustrated and want to know the reasons why. Yeah, he's on good money now. He deserves to be on good money. When you get to this age, we know it's length of contract. Does he want more money? We don't know. But those details will eventually come out if it's looking like he will move on. Now, there was a report or an article, I think yesterday in The Athletic from Simon Hughes, great story. And he's actually just written a biography of Salah. So it's obviously he's got really good contacts. And he said Mo Salah will be prepared to sign a year's contract at Liverpool. So these things will start sort of seeping out about the situation. We'll get more details about the contract, maybe not on the record, but maybe off the record. And then the more information we get there, that's when we can pick sides. So it's not about me being on the club side against Mo Salah. I just have a problem, and I always have done, with players coming out and being critical of the club. They can fight to the death over a contract behind the scenes. I don't like it when for me the club's always more important. And you know what? Maybe I am not the right person to ask, and maybe Gary's not, because we were two players who the club was everything. It was no one was bigger than the club. We'd always put the club probably before ourselves at certain times as well. And so and I will never change that. And I was very critical of Cristiano Ronaldo a couple of years ago when he'd done an interview with Piers Morgan, when Manchester United were just getting back, having a really good run. They just won a big game, I think, away at Fulham last minute. And then this interview drops. And it's like, no, the focus should be the team. And that's my problem with Mo Salah. Now, if Liverpool are saying we're only going to give him a year contract and we want him to take a big reduction in wages, I don't think that's right.
I was going to say, he deserves more, if not the same, surely.
No, I don't think more. I think he's still one of the highest paid players. No, but I mean, yeah, I don't think he should get less money. He's still the best player in the team. Him and Virgil van Dijk, I'd say, for me, it'd be a 2-year contract. But if he's willing to sign a year's contract, if that story was right, and then Liverpool don't get that deal done, I can assure you, I'll do a 180. I'll be looking at the club. You know what I mean? My criticism of Mo Salah is not about the contract, it's speaking publicly when Liverpool are in such a great position.
Cara, just let me ask you a question on all three of them. In order of importance, who the first player out of those three that you'd keep, the second player and the third player?
The first player would be Virgil van Dijk. I think that this guy is, way above probably any centre-back I've seen in the Premier League area, but you see the way he played against Haaland and Mbappe. They're the two best attacking players now in world football. It's almost too... Football at the top level is actually too easy for Virgil van Dijk, and the mistakes he makes are actually just through complacency. You know, we saw that again on Saturday. So for me, Virgil van Dijk, the next one will be Trent Alexander-Arnold. And the only reason I'm saying that is because of his age. And I think, obviously, if you sign Trent now, you've got him for the rest of his career. And Mo would be third, just for the fact that I'd probably pick Van Dijk over Mo, but he's obviously a lot older. But of course, we massively miss all three. But that's the order I'd sort of see in importance.
So Liverpool have a 9-point lead over Arsenal and Chelsea.
That's going to go down when we Salah fans, isn't it?
And they have an 11-point lead, of course, over Manchester City, who Gary's Salford City have drawn in the third round of the FA Cup. As we all know, that was on the back page of the Mail, your tweet.
I mean, Rebecca, we've got to go back to this because I was with Gary before the draw was made, the day before at the City game, and we talked about the draw because my son, his team Wigan, we're hoping for in a Premier League draw. Now, he said we just want a big Premier League team away from home, and I'm sat there thinking, 5 millionaires. You know, running Salford, they've got the mate Peter Lim as well, he's got a few quid. And all these clubs you could do with the money. I mean, what else? What doesn't fall on this man's lap?
Cara, do you know something? I mean, there was more than the reason of money that we wanted to play a big Premier League club away. We've actually never been in the third round of the FA Cup ever. And for us to play a big Premier League club away is like a little bit important for us. So it wasn't just a case of show me the money. You know what I mean? Seriously. Look, it's the idea of going to Manchester City to play football. Was that on the back page of the Mail this morning, my joke tweet?
I saw, I follow that whole Tomorrow's Papers Today on Twitter, and your tweet made half of the page of the back of the Mail, yeah.
I didn't get the joke, I'm deadly serious. Well, I mean, I know the Liverpool fans were singing it. Were you saying it as if Salford's fans are going to be singing it?
No, if Salford beat them, he will get sacked in the morning, won't he?
I was with you, Jamie. Okay, chasing pack at the moment, I'm looking at the table. Arsenal, Chelsea, level on points. Arsenal only above Chelsea, I think I'm right in saying, on alphabetical order. Enzo Maresca going on and on about how we're not in the title race. He's getting asked every week, are you in the title race? He keeps saying no. Are they in the title race, Gary?
No, they're not. And to be honest with you, I heard his answer. And I thought two things about that. I thought both things that you would think. One was, well done. You've got to depress expectation because they're not going to win the league. I genuinely don't believe they are. But then I think there's an element of, to be fair, it could be a mad season where you never know what's going to happen. And, should he leave the door open a little bit? At this moment in time, obviously, Liverpool are big favourites. But I can't believe they're not going to hit a bad patch at some point. I can't believe that it's 13 games in and we're only a third of the season gone. And it's just ridiculous to think that you would... And Carol, we were texting to each other yesterday, Rebecca, and I'll say this, it might help Liverpool, but I'm not particularly wanting to help them. There's this stat come out that every team that's been this far in front at this stage of the season has always gone on to win the league. So it's almost like, right, it's Liverpool, it's a guarantee Liverpool are going to win the league. However, there are many times after 15 or 20 games where teams have been this far in front where they've lost the league. So it's a point in the season whereby this is the highest lead that anyone's ever had, or one of the highest leads anyone's ever had at this point in the season. So every team that's been in this position has always won the league. So Liverpool, in everyone's mind now, they must win the league. But, the likes of Newcastle, us, Arsenal, I think in the past have been this far in front or have had big points leads with 12 games to go, 15 games to go, 18 games to go, and lost the league from positions that are obviously further down the line. So I do think it's a little bit misleading at this moment in time. I do think that Liverpool are strong favourites, but I do think they'll hit a patch, and I do think Arsenal will go on a run. And I do think that gap will narrow, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and of course Liverpool will hit a patch, and I think these next two games Liverpool are really important. When I look at those games, people will say Newcastle may be 9th in the league, Everton or wherever they are. But I always think three Premier League games in a week is a little bit like the Christmas period where you go, a week could happen and you're all of a sudden, you could have got 9 points from 9 or you could get 2 points from 9 and it completely changes where you are. And I'm not just talking about Liverpool, I'm talking about anybody in the table. Someone could gain 5 points on somebody. So I do think if Liverpool came through these two games and got maximum points, which if I'm being honest, I'm not sure they will do. If someone said to me now, 4 points from those two games, I think I'd take that. Because the type of fixtures that you could easily get 2 points from or 1 point from. So if if Liverpool got 6 points from these, you then look at their fixtures since the last international break. Those 4 games coming out of it, they'd have had 3 away and 1 at home, and the 1 at home would have been Man City. So you'd look at Arsenal's fixtures and think, oh, Arsenal are back now, they're on a good run. If they haven't gained on Liverpool, and Liverpool have still had tougher fixtures because they've had 3 away, and they've played Man City at home, I think that'll damage Arsenal a little bit psychologically.
I think I'm with Carragher there, Rebecca. I did Arsenal on Saturday night against West Ham, and they played well. They did mad 10 minutes, but their next fixtures are United at home. They've then got Fulham. They've then got Everton. They've got Crystal Palace. They've got Ipswich, Brentford, Brighton. So they've basically got, and before a North London derby, but they've got a group of fixtures that are as friendly as they're going to be, and that takes them, I think, into sort of like early January-ish, sort of mid-January. They've got to have closed that gap quite significantly with these fixtures that they've got coming up in this next 4 or 5 weeks. Liverpool have obviously got, probably a tougher run, had a tougher run, as Carragher said, and they've got to close the gap to within, I would say, sort of 4 points, 5 points in that period. At that point, you're within 1 or 2 games and you've got to play each other yet. So I think that Arsenal, it's an important part of the season, that winter stretch where Arsenal just got to get back on the shoulder, got to get back in contention. They've got to make it look like, oh, you're 11 points clear of City, you're 9 points clear of us, and now you're 4 or 5. And that would feel very different, obviously. But there's a lot of football to play in the next 4 or 5 weeks for Arsenal to get to that point.
So Liverpool top, Arsenal and Chelsea, Brighton in the top 4, Manchester City at the moment outside of the top 4 on goal difference. Big set of midweeks, and then another big weekend with the final ever Merseyside derby at Goodison Park to come this weekend, which will be a huge affair as well.
This episode of It's Called Soccer is in association with AllState. Some people just know they could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance by checking AllState first. It's always smart to check first, and I've learned the hard way with this. Like the time I didn't check the weather before the match and spent the whole game up in the gantry freezing without my coat. It's always worth checking what VAR is doing before you go too crazy celebrating a last-minute winner in front of the away fans. And what if you booked that big gig vacation away before you check the date of the cup final? Checking first is smart, so check AllState first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with AllState. This content is intended for audiences in the US only. Savings vary, terms apply. AllState Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
This is an advertisement from BetterHelp. With the cold weather outside and dark days, December is a month to enjoy home comforts. For me, it means nights in with the family, with a fire going and something good on the TV. But it's not just in December that we need comfort. Taking care of our mental health can bring comfort and support no matter the time of the year. If you're looking to start therapy or just need a little extra support, BetterHelp can help you feel grounded and empowered to be your best self. Therapy is not just for big life-changing events. It's also great for learning healthy ways to cope, setting boundaries and getting a better understanding of yourself. It's made a huge difference in my life when I needed it. BetterHelp connects you to mental health professionals with a wide range of expertise, and you can switch anytime for no charge. It's entirely online and fits your schedule. Find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/ICS. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ICS.
Gentlemen, it is now time to join the guys from the Give and Go podcast to round up all the action from the MLS Conference Finals, because it is getting good.
The MLS Cup finalists have been decided as the LA Galaxy defeat Seattle Sounders 1-0 to become Western Conference champions for the first time in 10 years. The team with the most MLS Cups in this league looking to add more silverware to their trophy cabinet.
And Seattle gave them everything that they possibly could. This game was 0-0 for 80 minutes. Seattle actually frustrating this high-flying fluid offense that the LA Galaxy possess. But when Ricky Puig is in this rare form, he's unstoppable. You give him a sliver of space, he will find you, and that is exactly what happened as he slipped in Joveljic, who blasted it home. LA Galaxy get a very tight 1-0 result, but overall, they were the better team. Seattle just couldn't generate enough opportunities opportunities for themselves.
It's important to note that Ricky Puig will not be in the MLS Cup Final after it was revealed that he tore his ACL in this match. His presence will certainly be missed as he's, in my opinion, the most important player for the LA Galaxy. And over in Orlando, we had another impressive result as the New York Red Bulls continue their incredible form and get a 1-0 victory over Orlando City. Andres Reyes scoring the goal here and Coronel having another great performance between the sticks.
So now we have the New York Red Bulls going to Los Angeles to play the Galaxy in the MLS Cup Final. Who do you got winning?
Let's say it at the same time.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
3, 2, 1.
LA Galaxy.
Okay. I don't know if you're going to say Galaxy or not. I didn't know. I think their offensive firepower is just too much, and I just don't see New York's defense being good enough to ultimately hold them back.
Yeah, I think New York will be a worthy opponent for this LA team. They've been fantastic, honestly, when you look at their playoff run so far. Performances from Carlos Coronel have been immaculate, and then, of course, you have experienced players like Emil Forsberg pulling the strings for this offense. But I do think, as you just put, LA Galaxy simply have too much offensive firepower. They will lift the MLS Cup.
What is interesting, though, is that neither one of these clubs has played in an MLS Cup final in a really long time. So Gary and Jamie, given that both of you have played in lots of finals, what advice would you give to a player who has never played in a final before?
All right, guys, so LA Galaxy against New York Red Bulls is the MLS Cup Final this weekend, this coming Saturday. Obviously, playing in finals for both of you was a basically every season thing, pretty much. What advice would you give to maybe a player in the Galaxy lineup or in the Red Bulls lineup who's never played in a final? Jamie, let me go to you first.
Take it all in, because even though you said me and Gary have played in a lot of finals, I used to always, certainly when I was getting older, say to players who were playing in the first final, it might be your last. Now we were lucky that we played for big clubs, and you wouldn't expect that. But I was always adamant, especially when we won in the game, it's finished, to really enjoy it. Because it's not easy getting to finals, and you should be proud of getting to a final. Yes, you want to win it, and people say you look back, and if you don't win it, you can't enjoy it. But, getting to a final is a real achievement. So I would say you should be pretty proud of themselves as well, getting to the final. Take everything in that they can. These are the moments you look back on in your life, and just try and really enjoy it as much as possible, especially if you get the victory. If you get the victory, people say, sometimes don't go over the top, or don't do this, or don't do that, or put the silly hats on, enjoy it, get silly photographs. What I'm saying, you never know when you're going to go back, so make sure you enjoy.
Gary?
Yeah, I would say try and keep the preparation for the game as normal as it possibly can. And I'm talking about things sometimes, particularly for young players. I think experienced players, it's different, but for younger players, you can really get carried away and use up a lot of nervous energy. Things like tickets, things like travel arrangements for families, things like what you're going to wear and how you're going to look. Get carried away with the things that ultimately you would never get normally carried away with for a normal match in the league. And sometimes you can get to a final and you do see teams, particularly sometimes young players, they can freeze a little bit in the big moment because they built it up so much in their heads and they treat it differently than the game that ordinarily they would play. So I think repetition of your routine that you normally do, try and keep it as normal as possible, but understanding it's quite abnormal, the final, in the sense the exposure to try and keep. I used to think sometimes, even before a big Super Sunday, even in my later career, don't listen to the adverts. Don't because the promos for the games and the adverts that get built up, you see them. You're in that game. You see sometimes Man United Liverpool games are being promoted on a Wednesday before a Sunday. That's too early for a player to think about that match and bring it into your world and into your life. You've got 4 days of training. You don't want that sort of that feeling. So for me, it was about making sure I didn't put myself in a position whereby I was feeling sort of more heightened than I already maybe would need to be for a big game.
This episode of It's Called Soccer is brought to you by the Unfiltered Soccer podcast. Landon Donovan and Tim Howard are true legends of US soccer. Between Landon's 6 MLS Cups with the Galaxy and Earthquakes, and Tim's 13 years in the Premier League with Everton and Manchester United, they have done it all on the field. And they don't hold back in this podcast, and if I know Tim, I know that is for sure. It is real straight talking. Trust me, if you know Tim like I know Tim in the NBC Sports studio, we want more of these opinions from this guy, and on this podcast we get them. It is real, it's straight talking from two of the most decorated players in US soccer history. If you love It's Called Soccer, you are going to love Unfiltered Soccer. It is all kicking off. Follow Unfiltered Soccer on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube with new episodes every Tuesday morning. Welcoming in what should be our special guests, plural, right now. We're on the singular, just the one Robbie right now on the show, because Robbie Mustoe, welcome to It's Called Soccer. Where's Robbie Earle?
Well, technically, I mean, he's good in so many things, Robbie Earle, he really, really is, but the technical kind of links and all the modern kind of, all this sort of stuff is not his strong suit, but we're hoping, I've just sent him a link again, hoping that he can appear, quickly.
He's just sent a message trying to see if we can forward the link to a laptop. Apologise to the boys. I mean, it's an absolute disaster. I just told him to use his phone. But his phone is from 1997.
I mean, it's pretty simple, isn't it?
He's actually he's at NBC as well, isn't he? Yeah. I mean, is there no more perfect place in the world to be than the place of your work without so many technical people?
And he's got 2 people helping him. I don't know what's happening. It's just click on a link. I don't know how he can't click on a link, but he can't. Don't worry. If he arrives, great. We'll just let him in from the lobby.
Be here.
And if he doesn't, we will do the one Robbie. Mustoe, I only saw you a couple of days ago, but it's so lovely to have you on the pod.
Thank you.
Should we start for the guys? Because I don't think Jamie and Gary will have known kind of how you made your transition from the UK to the USA, when and why.
I'll try and do it pretty quickly. 2006 I moved over. 2004 I retired playing, had surgery on my hip.
Oh, there he is!
Oh my God.
AllState.
I had to think there's a better brand, one Robbie rather than two Robbies, to be fair.
He still can't even hear us. Look at his little quizzical face.
Oh no, he can't hear us.
Speak, Robbie, speak.
Can you see us?
Speak.
Oh, he can't hear. He can't.
I can hear him grumbling.
Okay.
I can hear him. Can you hear us, Rob?
Yeah,
AllState,
got
us?
Oh, he's in. All right.
Yeah, got it
Unbelievable.
now. Yeah. I mean, jeez, sorry, troops. Massive apologies.
We did start.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie, because it was a wait. So the first question I'd asked to Robbie Mustoe was how and why he'd made the trip over. He was saying that he retired in 2004. Robbie Mustoe, do you want to pick up the story from there?
Yeah, and it's just like, my family, we're in Middlesbrough, and we're like, where's the best place for the kids to give them opportunities for the next stage of life? Because you draw a line under the sand. The football career was great, and it ends, and you every player's thinking about what they do next. I just thought America was a great place to try, Rebecca. I threw a few emails out there. I got a reply back from a guy who was head coaching the men's team at Harvard in Boston. And he said, I know you, come out and check out Boston. So I did. I coached in his camp. You've got the islands of Nantucket in Martha's Vineyard. You've got skiing of New Hampshire and Vermont. Boston's a quick flight back to the UK. I just thought it was great. We really liked it. Getting the visa was the hard thing. It took about 18 months of finding a way to get into the country legally. But we got that visa. We sold our house up in the northeast, one-way tickets, put our furniture on a ship, and away we came. In terms of why, it's just we could have gone back down south. My family's from Oxfordshire and stuff, but we've been away for so long. We just wanted another adventure and go somewhere different. So that's the how and why.
Wow, so you're nearly 20 years into being in the States. That's incredible. AllState, you came over around the same time or a little later?
A little later, 2010. It was, as Mustoe said, career had finished. Was doing a little bit of TV in the UK, and I got an opportunity with ESPN, who we all know. They were trying to grow their football platform over the US and in the Caribbean, particularly, and obviously with the links to Jamaica and what I'd done down there. They offered us the opportunity to come over for 3 years, and just in terms of lifestyle and family, my son was 18. He'd always been out in America and wanted to do college here. My daughter was 14, so she would go into the American high school system at that age, and it just kind of was a perfect fit, perfect time. We did it. I started working with MLS, did some work at the Portland Timbers for a couple of years, which fascinating place. I know Gary knows Phil's up there.
Is that where, sorry Robbie, is that where Rashford went to watch the basketball?
Yeah, because
Thank you, Jamie.
well,
I
Thank you, Jamie.
I think Jamie wasn't it?
Thank you, Jamie.
Somebody doesn't know their American geography.
That's unreal. Carry on, Robbie.
So yeah, and then off the back of working in MLS and doing a few bits and pieces, I got a call from a guy named Pierre Mustoe, who's known to most of us, who said, I think we're going to bid for the Premier League. We probably won't get it, but if we do, would you be interested in working? So I just went, don't know who this fool is, but I said yes anyway. 6 months later, he phoned me and said it was December 2010. He said 2013. We've got it. We've got 6 months to get it going. You need to come over after Christmas, and we've got the Premier League.
I didn't get that phone call till later, by the way. I didn't get that earlier hook up with Pierre. It must have been a last-minute thought or something.
Down the list.
Based on my conversation, you weren't even a
Robbie,
thought,
how did yours work? Because you initially went over there for a coaching role. How did that materialise then into becoming sort of a TV analyst?
Wait, hang on, Jamie. When you say Robbie, you're going to have to say Robbie Mustoe or Robbie Earle. I've done this for 12 years.
Musty.
It doesn't work.
That's not a problem saying Robbie Musty. I thought he might want to be known as Robbie One.
That's fine too.
Robbie
Often.
One. Okay.
that old one, Jamie. Yeah.
So is that a question to me about the coaching side?
Oh, that was Robbie One, yeah.
Well, I did my coaching badges in the UK. I did my UEFA B. I moved to America. I did my US soccer license. I actually coached at Boston College for 1 year, which I loved in 2007. But I did know somebody at ESPN, a guy called Dave Roberts, who was the local Sky reporter up in the Northeast. And he was leaving to go to America. He said, if you ever come to America, I'm going to be working for ESPN. Maybe they might want to see what you can do in terms of commentary or whatever. So I went to the US. And by the way, I love the coaching. We had a lot of success at Boston College. It was just, they're good players. Some of these college players are good players. They don't have the best system to develop as pros and stuff, to have a career in it. But I tell you, so I enjoyed that a lot. And then I had a choice to make. BC was great, and the head coach wanted me to be with them all the time. And I said, well, I'm working for ESPN as well. And I was at the crossroads that many of you guys, I think, have been at, where whichever road you go down, I feel like I think it's harder to cross back from punditry back to coaching. And I had a decision to make. College, coached them at Boston College, which is a really big school and a good renowned program, or stay in the TV world. And there's quite a few reasons why I went with TV, but so obviously I went with TV.
Was one of them money, Robbie?
Well, actually, a little bit. I was volunteering.
Jamie.
I mean, I volunteer. I got nothing to go and coach there for a season, but
that always shifts us a little bit to the punditry side, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it was the right way to go. All I would say is I really love the coaching. I do miss it. I miss coaching a little bit, but I think, as you know, you're doing stuff on weekends. You can't do two things at once. So I have no regrets. And ESPN turned into NBC, and it's been a brilliant story. But no, I love the coaching. I really did.
When was the first time you two worked together?
Was ESPN. So Mustoe used to live in Boston. He'd go down to Bristol, Connecticut, where the studio was. I used to work out of an auxiliary studio in LAX. They had studio facilities there, so I'd go to LAX and beam down a camera in a studio, which and we kind of had a little rapport, and we go back and forth. And I think what we brought to ESPN was difference of opinion from two different sides, but respectful. If you listen to a lot of American, or in a lot of American sports, people are shouting over each other and they're looking for headlines. Well, me and Mustoe said it doesn't have to be that, but you can disagree in football. We've all got opinions. We've all got our different ways of doing things. And I thought we brought that element to ESPN, which is something that they've continued to use.
And Rebecca, when did you sort of first work with the Two Robbies?
I had gone over to ESPN, so I was working for ESPN UK as the sideline reporter in the Premier League, as you might remember. And then in the couple of the summers, I think it was 2011, ESPN USA asked ESPN UK, have you got anybody? Because we don't really have anyone to present football. We have like one person. Can we have somebody of yours to help do the Women's World Cup in 2011? So I did that. And then the following summer was Euro 2012, and they asked the same thing. So for that, I actually went to Bristol, Connecticut, where the headquarters of ESPN are. It's an insane headquarters. And it was during that summer of, funny enough, of Euro 2012 that Robbie Mustoe and I worked together in person. I hosted some of the shows and Robbie was on them. And then Earle dialed in from LA as part of a couple of those shows as well. So we kind of got to, very, very tiny, got to know each other a little tiny bit. But I was going back to finish my 1 year left on ESPN UK. So I left, and then it wasn't until I got the call, Mustoe, about the same time as Earle, not going to lie. No, I'm kidding. And then I knew that, and then once I got the call from Pierre, as 2012 went into 2013, he told me it was going to be these two and Carl Martino, who we had at the time. So I was like, well, that's great, because I know them both. I know they're great to work with, which, as you guys know, we spend at least 15 hours a weekend together. I mean, Gary, you've done it now. You've seen how many hours you sit in the studio. And you're watching the games, of course, but you've just got hours together, hours and hours. And we've done it for 12 years. I think we tried to work out, didn't we, at the weekend? We've done about 1,200 shows. It's kind of insane. So if you don't like each other... I mean, of course, we have moments where we've had a couple of moments down the years where we've got pissed off each other for 2 seconds. But on the whole...
Musty and Beck's a brother and sister at times. They come together and then they
we
have to go
love each other.
on.
No, hardly ever.
No, rarely.
But it's a long time in the studio, and they're tough hours, and so we'll always forever be grateful that it was these two, because it's hard. It's hard to spend that amount of time together.
Would you ever come back to England to do Punditry? Have you ever been offered roles to come back? Is it, it's not just yourselves. It's obviously you've got families to think about as well.
I think in the Punditry, Jamie, I'm not, I've had such a great opportunity here, and I'm not so naive to think that I could jump into anywhere near as high profile job in the UK. I think I've just taken the opportunity here. When the producer's looking for ex-Premier League players, there's just not many of them in the US that are there, available, has got a little bit of experience with ESPN, with the TV. I know, that there was one kind of little opportunity to go back, but I think we hadn't been here very long. So in terms of everything else, my kids were 8 and 11 when we moved here. So they went into elementary school, into middle school. So they're much more ingrained here. One's going to get married in a couple of years' time. My other one's just moved to the West Coast. So they're very, very settled. I still love UK, love going back and all that. And it's so great to go back to where I'm from, Oxfordshire and the Cotswolds and all that. It's so amazing. But you never say never, but I think I'm so thankful for my little gig here at NBC. I ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, I tend to agree as well, Jamie. And I think, both Musty and I are fortunate that, listen, we were average Premier League players who gave our best every weekend.
Sounds like me and Gary, that.
But in fairness, you boys have played at top clubs and have won all the big stuff. And so when you say something on TV, not many people can really question it.
They do.
Social media allows everybody to question it now. But I think what was slightly different in America was it was less about what we'd won and more about what we say. And so we have to be really stringent on, staying across new coaching techniques and data and all the things that the game's bringing. That's something I feel, especially for the American audience, is important, and something where we have to make up for lack of medals and lack of those big club opportunities to bring, something different to the screen.
We weren't at the very top in terms of the Premier League and internationally, but we played against those guys. I played against Gary's Manchester United, and we had a lot of bad times and some good times. Same with Liverpool, we've got Jamie there. So in some ways, it's interesting to come from a different point of view, because I say sometimes, like when I play against Roy Keane and Man United, I was thinking, why has he got 10 yards of space around him when he receives the ball and I can't get close, and when I get it, they're all over me? Why is it that Dennis Bergkamp drops in my shoulder? Why is Perez coming in here? Why is Villa? I think you're forced to think about the game a lot more when you're not at the pinnacle, where you just go out there and play. You're in a great side, dominant side. So I think that helped me in terms of being, I think I've always been analytical, but playing against the best we can bring that experience to the show, of course.
I was just going to take it onto the challenges of broadcasting to an American audience, because you guys got a bit of a head start on me. I found that quite difficult when I first came over. How did you find that, and what are those challenges for people listening who maybe wouldn't even think about it?
So straight from the back, Bex, I would say there's a couple of things. The biggest thing I think is that you're talking to a full spectrum of people. Some people who don't know the game at all, to expats who've played it and know it. So there's no dumbing down to a certain degree where you have to tell somebody what every offside is, why this free kick's being given, but you also have to bring people in and not exclude them to make sure they understand that the Championship is a league below the Premier League, that, a free kick can be indirect or direct depending on the nature of these little nuances that you have to get across. But you're talking to a wide spectrum of people who've got the game at different levels, where in England, football is a game. Most people play it, whether it's a Sunday football with their mates or they're playing non-league or whatever level, and everybody's got opinion. you're shaping more opinions in the US, but you've got to shape it in a way that you take everybody who's watching along with you on the journey.
The other thing as well, I think is the main difference, is the time that we get to talk. So American TV, it's much punchier. So that they prefer a punchy kind of headline, say something interesting in 30 seconds. And you haven't really got time to kind of, have a think about it and, well, where am I going to go, and bounce off somebody else. You kind of you've got your 30 seconds each. Rebecca asks a question, the producer will say, we got 1 minute for this chat. And I'm not very good at it still, but I meant to take 30 seconds and leave time for Robbie Earle to come in for 30 seconds, and I apologise. I sometimes go over, but it's so difficult, and that's got to be a big difference, Gary. Did you notice that when you came in? I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit more leeway with guys coming over and not being, but you've got to be much more shorter with your analysis and your answers.
Yeah, I mean, I found it, to be fair, I was helped a lot, obviously by Robbie, by Rebecca, by the team there, because I think they sort of softened it a little bit for me that weekend. But what I did find is that the intensity of sort of continuing it's actually the endurance and the intensity, because you mentioned before, Rebecca, being on air for, we obviously left the hotel at like 4:30 in the morning or 5 o'clock on the Saturday, and you get home at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so you're there for feels like 10, 11 hours. You're on air doing all the 3 games. You'd never do that in England. You just never do that length of time. And then obviously when the games start, the intensity is really, like you say, it's 30 seconds, then it's over to him, then it's back to you, Rebecca, and you're coming in you feel like you're under attack a little bit. It's it's like, what's going on here?
It's like a train going through it, we call it, a train going through.
You know there's a problem if I'm telling people to calm down.
Jamie,
yes,
it must be the same CBS. Is it as quick on CBS, Jamie?
It's sometimes, I still haven't fully worked it out, but sometimes it depends if we're on a certain channel. You'll know better than me. Is there like a paid channel of CBS?
Yeah, you're on Paramount Plus or you're on big CBS, right?
Yeah.
I think. And so if you're on Paramount Plus, you probably get more time, CBS less time.
Yeah, so listen, they tell us in the meeting before, and I wouldn't say I changed that much because it goes over my head a little bit, but I think obviously Kate understands it a lot more than us, and and sometimes they sort of tell us, there's a bigger audience tonight for a certain reason, what you've just mentioned there, but in the main we don't have to change too much, but because it's the Champions League and it's that much money and revenue, you know what it's like for the adverts, and it's the same advert every time you go to the break and they come back in, so those little bits of music are just stuck in your head a lot. But it is a lot quicker and sharp, but sometimes I think it's good to have that, and it makes you sort of focus on what you've got to say and get to the point and be quick and be punchy, because I think that is the best sort of punditry when someone's talking for 2 or 3 minutes, they're just going round the houses more often than not. How many times me and you, Gary, we're on TV and we're filling for something and we say, feel like you're drowning, you don't know where you're going with it, you're thinking, I'm going to get out of this, I don't know where I'm going to finish.
Yeah. I, to be honest with you, one of the reasons that I think I sort of felt 3 or 4 years ago to sort of do podcasts and stuff, and I know you've got a podcast as well, is that you're actually, it's liberating to be able to just speak and talk about football without someone coming in and sort of saying, right, we need to go to a break in 15 seconds or 20 seconds. You feel like, we're just getting going here, we're having a really good chat about something. So I think that's the reason that probably podcasts and longer form sort of YouTube stuff's come in. But I enjoyed it. I thought that the 2 days I spent in the NBC studio, I felt it was a real challenge. It was completely different. I was like well out of my comfort zone, but obviously I think I was helped enormously by the people who were there. But there is, Carrie, you've got basically, I did a game. Oh my God, there was 6 goals in the first half. What was the game, Robbie?
It's probably Man United.
Probably Brentford. Yeah.
And there were 6 goals in the first half.
Oh, yeah.
And you get given this sheet, and you've literally got to think about who's assisted, who's given the foul away. You've literally got to commentate on this game, but you've got another 2 games to watch as well. So you're like, you've got this sheet here, and you've got. I was like, oh God, you stitched me up here.
Yeah, so you haven't quite cracked America yet, Gary.
Not quite yet, no.
He's got another chance this coming weekend. He's got another chance. Two Robbies podcast, which Gary mentioned there, is really successful. You guys, I know, love doing it, and that is very much. You leave the studio having kind of scratched the surface a little bit, don't you? And then you go and sit down, like Gary said, and you then get to just go, okay, here's the rest of my thoughts. That's why you love it, and that's why it works. Do you think?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes also just follow on Gary. Like sometimes on a Sunday, we do it on a Sunday when all the games are finished. Or most, some is a Monday game which we don't cover on it. But it's like we're pretty tired. Like you've had a long Saturday, you have a long Sunday, and then we've got to turn around and do an hour on a podcast. So it's like it is a little tiring. But to Gary's point, that's exactly why we started it. It's exactly why we started it. Right in the first season, Rob, we did a radio show. We did a live radio show on a Saturday, wasn't it? I don't know. But that's the reason why we did it, Bex, just to get more out, to more opinion out there, and a little bit more debate, a bit more analysis, and that's why and it's been going ever since.
But I think as well, Musty, we have to be a certain way in a studio, disciplined in what you say, certain terminology. I think I always look at the podcast, my mates who listen, some in England, some in the US, but basically it's a bit like we take the shirt and tie off, we have half a pint of beer and we chat about the game as if on a different level. And you can get some things out, some of the nuance, some of the things you've seen, little details that maybe are going to get missed in the grand scheme of a show. And I think that's where it connects with people, that we're going a little bit deeper, a little bit behind the curtain on some of the stuff that you just don't have the time to do on a big broadcast.
It's hard to get cancelled on a podcast, isn't it?
just quickly talk to us about, and I've spoke to you about this, Rebecca, when we did that walk in the US, but the growth of the Premier League from when you both began, to obviously today, it's been absolutely enormous. Where's that come from, do you think, in terms of sort of the trajectory?
It's a great question. I always say, I always have my barometer. So I live in LA and we work on the East Coast over in Connecticut, outside New York. So Bex and we travel every weekend. I remember when we first started this gig, and it was 2012-13, and I used to travel, and you'd see the odd football shirt of people in the airports, a Man U, a Chelsea, a Liverpool. You'd see, a few people. I swear, and I kid you not, I would say 50% of the guys I see on a Sunday evening when I'm going home have a football shirt on. 50% of those guys sit in the bar when you're waiting for your flight that's got delayed and ask, can we put the football on? Not the American football, not the basketball. There's been a real sea change in people of the Premier League. Now, we're always at a stage. The other thing that always comes to light is I'll be sitting in a bar maybe waiting for my flight, and a guy will come up and say, love the shows, love the team, I'm a big Premier League fan. The next best question is, who should I support? So I've got like a tick sheet now that I work. So I say, okay, tell me where you're from. What's your personality? Do you need to win? Do you da-da-da-da? So, if, Fulham should be paying me the amount of people I've put to Fulham's a great club. Send London, you play good football, you're going to do all right. Newcastle, if you want to be up north, you want to be earthy. Man United, some forget the great times that you've had, because many of the US fans, since we had it, was the year Sir Alex left. So I haven't seen the glory years of Man United, and, hopefully those are coming back with Amrin. So there's this checklist that I do to give people teams. And the point I'm making is people also want another reason to watch now. They love the Premier League, but they want a reason to go and say, Fulham's my team, or Newcastle, or United, or Liverpool, or Arsenal. So they can sort of really bed into it. And it's been a fascinating journey that just seems to keep growing.
I think the fan fest has been important, Gary. The fan fest we do around the country, that's been important to grow in it. Crikey, our first one in New York, you could do your bit in the studio, then walk around and stand shoulder to shoulder with a few fans that were there watching the games. Now, like Philadelphia and Chicago and some ones that we've done, there's so many people there. Really, you can't really go and mingle because you get mobbed. It's just another way of doing it. And to Rob's point, like I can be on a train going into New York City from where I'm in Connecticut, and there's always somebody like who comes over and chats and sits by us and wants to talk football all the way in. So that's something that's changed over the years. That wasn't happening early on. So it's not a very accurate metric and that, but the just getting recognised by big going around the country travelling is like, wow, like people are really watching it. So. Yeah, we're pretty pleased with that. The numbers, I feel like, Bex, over the years, it's been a steady incline in our viewing numbers, where I think other sports have been going down a little bit with different ways to consume it. So I think, it's going pretty steadily well.
There's one thing that is quite important to say as well. That I've had a few guys who've come to me at certain places I've been out and just said, thank you so much for what you do. And you're a bit taken aback. Listen, we present football, really. We tell the story, the stories, what's happening on the pitch. But I've had a few people who said, thank you for what you do, because you've helped pull my family together again. So because Gary, as you know, it's early in the morning, 7 o'clock on the East Coast, 4 a.m. on the West Coast. But people are getting up with their kids are coming down, they're having breakfast together, they're sitting on a sofa and they're watching football for 3, 4, 5 hours. And a few of the guys have said, my kids would never come down normally. They'd be on their computer or they're on their phone or they're in bed. Yet football is helping to bring a sort of family unit back to America in some respects. And, you know, by midday, the games are generally done, certainly on the West Coast. You can have the rest of your weekend and do what you want to do. So there's, you know, that's why we take it so serious what we do, because we realise it means so much to these people who are watching.
Rebecca, you've worked at the Two Robbies. You've also started working with the two. Well, not the two. You know, the Two Nobbies. Is that what we're going to be called? Come on, dish the dirt on us all. I mean, what's it like working with us? What's it like working with them? What are the differences?
It's funny actually, because I was saying to the Two Robbies this past weekend that Gary in the studio, I've only worked with him. How many? You've been over once? Haven't you been over once? Twice. You've been over twice. You've been over twice. Once? Either way.
Once.
But I even though I work with you on the podcast every week, I still haven't yet picked up, and I certainly haven't with you, Jamie, yet either, your little kind of signals of when you're going to stop talking or whether you finish your point. Or so with Mustoe, we get the nostril flare. I know the nostril flare when he wants to get in and talk. The nostrils flare, I'm like, Mustoe wants to get in. Earle's got a finger, which he puts up like that, when he wants to get in after Mustoe. I also know the cadence of their voice so bloody well that I know exactly when they're going to finish. And as you know, you can't waste any seconds on on our show. You've got to get in. So I can't wait a couple of seconds to see if they finish. I just got to get straight in and go to break or whatever. So I need to know, Jamie and Gary, have we got nostrils? Have we got fingers? I don't know what we've got. I haven't worked it out yet, but I'm going to work it out at some point. It's so crucial.
I don't think you will. We're like the Peter Beagrie and Doku of Punditry. You're just not going to... you haven't got a clue what we're going to do next. We haven't got a clue.
I love it. All right. Okay, chaps, we've got to let the Two Robbies go, but Jamie already said it. It's the Two Robbies against the Two Nobbies, and I've got a little quiz for you guys, right?
Oh, here we go.
So, yeah, this is exciting.
Here we go.
Okay, so it's a one question to each team, like alternate. We're going to start with the Two Robbies first. Okay, so you can confer, I guess, but let's just try and rapid pace it. Right. Okay, Robbie. Gary scored his first Manchester United goal against Middlesbrough in a 3-3 draw in 1997. But who did Robbie Mustoe assist in that game?
Assist for scoring?
Yeah.
I think
Juninho, Mustoe.
we went there.
No, you told me. It's the guy.
Well, we had box issue. We had Hamilton Rickard. We had Dino. Big Bruyne. Big Dino scored at.
I think you. Phil
Okay.
Stamp.
I think you've literally tried 7 or 8
Mustoe.
people and you're not right.
Rebecca,
the answer is
Dean
Gordon.
okay. The Two Nobbies. Over to the Two Nobbies.
Was it actually something? Because I think I scored in that game, but I give a goal away in that game as well, to be fair. Was it Craig Hignett?
Correct.
Oh
because you were defending him on the cross.
I was at fault for the goal.
Fair play.
Honestly, I was at fault for the goal.
Wasn't it just a great pass? Wasn't it just a great pass from me? Probably.
Yeah, it was actually. That's a good point.
All right.
Yeah.
Two Nobbies. Who played more games, all competitions, against Robbie Mustoe? Was it Gary or was it Jamie?
Oh, that would have been me, wouldn't it, Cara?
Is this our question or theirs?
Yes,
It's your question.
Oh,
Yeah.
Which of
I thought
you...
said
Yours.
Who played more... No, I said the Two Nobbies. Who played more games, I'm asking you, against Robbie Mustoe? You or Gary? All
It's got to be me, hasn't it, Cara?
yeah, because
Yeah, it's
when
gotta
would
be.
Robbie have started his career?
Well, he retired in 2004. If he's retired 2003, 2004...
Yeah.
The 90s,
played
really.
pretty-
All the 90s.
I played pretty much 95, 6 through to 2004. It's got to be me, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Correct,
Yes,
correct.
me,
Gary
yeah.
played against Mustoe 9 times. Cara played 8
Easy
times.
question, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Crazy easy question.
It is 1-0 to the Nobbies.
Robbie Mustoe's about to make a point then.
No, it's not. No. Go ahead, Bex.
His nostrils didn't flare, Jamie. You've got to look for the nostrils. Okay. Number 2 for the Two Robbies. Who won more Premier League games, Robbie Earle or Clint Dempsey?
Oh, it's got to be Robbie Earle. Got to be Robbie Earle. That Wimbledon, you had that season you finished like...
Yeah.
Clint Dempsey.
It's Fulham, money.
Spurs.
Fulham.
He was at Spurs.
Got to be
Going
Robbie
with
Earle.
yourself?
Must be. I'd say, yeah.
Okay. Robbie Earle, 79. Clint Dempsey, 73. You're back in the game. Okay, question 2 to the two nobbies. Which
back in
team
the
did
game,
Robbie Earle
back in the
score
game,
more
mate.
goals against, Liverpool or Manchester United?
Cara,
Easy.
I don't think he scored that many times against United. But when I played, anyway.
I think he would have got a couple against Liverpool.
Yeah, I think Liverpool. We had a
I'll
good
go
record
Liverpool.
against Wimbledon, I think.
Yeah, I'll go Liverpool.
Final answer,
Liverpool.
you're correct. Liverpool 5, United 2.
Correct.
Oh, fine.
It is 2-1 to the nobbies. We go
Robbie,
on.
did you score?
Longest quiz in
One
history.
second. One second, Rebecca. Did you score at Old Trafford, Robbie, or were they both at Sellers Park?
Yeah, Old Trafford, yeah.
Oh.
Remember I told you I was
Yeah.
going to score one and you
Yeah.
nudged me, you give me a massive nudge. It would have been penalty now, VAR.
I
Contact.
love it. All right, question 3 for the two Robbies. Who's got more Premier League yellow cards? Robbie Mustoe or his old roommate, Gareth Southgate?
I got quite a few, Rob, to be fair.
Yellow card.
Gareth, super clean.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
But Gareth had
Centre-half.
longer career, more.
Yeah, but he was clean when he was so.
Yeah, centre half.
I remember
How are you?
I was up with the FA one year for having 10 in not very long period of time. I think so.
Yeah. Go on, Musty, we got to go with you, haven't we?
Incorrect. Gareth Southgate has 31 in
Oh.
426 appearances. Musty just
Wow.
at 30 in 203 appearances. You've got the same amount, basically, in half the number of appearances. Okay, question 3 for the two nobbies. Who scored more Premier League goals, Robbie Mustoe or Phil Neville?
Wow.
I think Phil scored. Oh, hang on. Phil scored about 12 for United, the 11 for United, or 12
Yeah,
full
but
stop.
with the Premier League.
Premier League goals, Mustoe or Phil?
They would have all been in the Carling Cup.
Yeah. Come on.
He scored in the Champions League at Rangers, I know that.
Yeah, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, Premier League,
I
Gary.
know.
Let's hone
That's
it
the other
up.
one.
Come on.
Yeah, just Premier League.
Cara, how many times did he score for Everton? I mean, I don't know his Everton stuff, to be
But
fair.
he scored at Anfield for us. An own goal at the Anfield Road end. He'd have scored a couple, wouldn't he? He'd have scored a
So
couple.
you going for Musty or
Robbie-
Phil Neville?
Robbie
I
won't have scored
reckon
that many.
Phil would have got 5 or 6 goals, 7 goals, not more than that.
No. He scored more than that. No,
I just don't know.
Cara,
I
he
don't know how many
scored,
goals I
he
got.
scored
Must
more
have
than me
done
for
that,
United, I think. But I think Robbie will have scored more than Phil. Because Phil scored about 11 or 12, I think.
I was more of a
I know,
defensive
but
guy at that
no
point.
one scored for Middlesbrough.
Janino scored a few.
They did. Robbie, I think Robbie. Yeah, I think Robbie scored more than Phil.
Correct. Robbie Mustoe, 10 Premier League goals. Phil Neville, 9.
9. Okay.
Oh!
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
done,
Question for
Robbie.
the two Robbies. During the 1997-98 League Cup semi-final second leg, Middlesbrough against Liverpool, which one of Robbie Mustoe's teammates did Jamie Carragher foul to give away a penalty? Good question.
I don't. I'm not one
Musty,
to.
you must know this.
I mean, our best. I mean, we Janino, didn't we? We had Janino then. We beat. We beat him over 2 legs. 2 legs League Cup.
Second
League
leg.
Cup.
This is
I
second
remember
leg
that game. I
semi-final.
had to do a man-to-man on those.
yeah,
It
second
was
leg.
it was the second leg, so
Where
it was
was it
at
at?
Borough, and I remember this game. So I was a young kid. I didn't play the first leg. We were winning 2-1, and we got beat the second leg 2-0, and that penalty was after about a minute.
Do you remember that,
And one of
Musty?
the Liverpool players knew Andy Townsend really well, and he told him our team, and we changed our system. That night we went back to a 3 at the back, and one of the Liverpool players, won't name names, told Andy Townsend the day before.
Oh.
So you did something and we were a bit... But I've got a name in my head, right, and I can't picture it. Was he a foreign player?
Probably we had a lot of foreign players. We had.
Was he tall with blonde hair?
Was it Becky? Was
Yeah.
it Mikael Beck?
Yes.
Mikael Beck.
Yes.
Mikael Beck.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying
Excellent.
to.
Good shout, Musty.
I was trying to work out this
Good memory,
long-winded
you two.
story as to what the relevance was Andy Townsend telling the team and him giving a penalty away. But what's that got to do with
Basically,
it?
we didn't really know where we were at the start, you know what I mean? We were all over the place system-wise.
And that's when
All right.
McManaman was good. Beck, sorry, Steve McManaman was so good. Then I had to do a man-to-man, like follow him around the pitch in both games, and he was the fittest guy I think I've ever kind of been against, and skillful and quick, and kept wanting the ball. That was a tough assignment, but yeah, one of our better moments getting through.
That's crazy, nearly 30 years ago. That is mad. Okay, question number 4 for the two nobbies. Who scored more Premier League goals, Robbie Earle or Mikel Arteta?
I would have said Robbie Earle.
I would have. But did
question.
Arteta take penalties at any stage? That's the thing. The penalties at Everton.
Everton's penalty take was Baines.
Yeah.
Won it?
I'd have said Robbie, actually. I mean, the
Yeah,
fact
Robbie.
is 5 against Liverpool and 2... Yeah, we go Robbie,
Yeah, you're right. 45, Robbie Earle. Mikel Arteta, 41. Yeah, 41.
45.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, final question for the two Robbies. Which US player has played the most games in the Premier League?
Brad Friedel, Rob. I mean, got to be the goalies. Timbo's got to be up there.
Well, Timbo's got to be up
played
there,
forever.
hasn't he, Tim? 10 years at Everton.
Didn't he? He stayed in England, didn't he? He had different
Gonna
clubs.
have to harry you.
Yeah, but he never came to Liverpool till he was 35.
Where was he at?
Yeah, didn't play a lot of games. I'll go Timbo.
Musty?
All right.
Is that right?
I'll go with my senior.
Tim Howard
my
was
senior
second with 399. Brad Friedel was top with 450. It's 4-2.
Robbie,
must be.
that just tells you Robbie Mustoe
Should've
does
gone,
not know
must be.
me. I mean, the fact he went with I mean, Robbie, come on. Jesus.
Even though the two Nobbies have won, we're going to just ask them a final question. Which English player, Gary and Jamie, has scored the most goals in MLS history?
Is it Wrighty's son?
Wright Phillips.
Correct. 117, Bradley Wright Phillips. We don't have the tiebreaker, which was how many goals have Crystal Palace scored this season, which I'm glad about because it's depressing. The two Nobbies win by 5 goals to 2. Thank you so much for joining us. Everyone can listen to you on the Two Robbies podcast. They can watch you, of course, every week on NBC. And I will see you guys next weekend.
Thanks, Bex. Thanks for having us, guys.
Thank you, both.
Cheers, Robbie
Thank
1,
you.
Robbie 2.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I think it's about time. Jamie, we will miss you in New York. Gary, I will see you in New York City on Friday to record some more It's Called Soccer. I'll see you both next week. Anyone who's watching, please continue to subscribe and follow us on YouTube. If you're listening, listen to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. You can watch us there as well. Follow us on all the social media. Send us in all of your comments. And we will see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye,
He's going to
Rebecca.
Neville's bar.